Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Deck Tech brought to you by the Combat Chain. I am your host today, Patrick Shaw, and we're going to do something a little different than we usually do with our Deck Tech videos because we have a special guest with us. Oli Cornish, better known on Discord as Arcane Alders, is here from the UK. He is the author of one of the most played decks on Talishar, 8th most played deck as of this writing, the Fatigue Assassin deck. We love us some Arcane here on the Combat Chain, so Ollie, thanks for coming and helping us understand this deck a little more.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to show you the deck.
Yeah, and we're glad to have you. Quickly, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into Flesh and Blood.
I got in Flesh and Blood through my younger brother. He wanted someone to play with, and I got instantly hooked with the control decks, with Bravo, with Azalea. I just jumped on when Crucible of War came out, so there was some very fun control decks at that time. And yeah, been playing since.
Excellent. Now, February just released a bunch of its data about matchups, 170,000 plus games played, and also the most played decks there. And the Fatigue Assassin list is right there. How did you feel seeing that list where it was?
Yeah, I stumbled across it on the stats one day. It was really cool to see. People like the deck. People find it fun. They might just be testing Arcane, and it's pretty cool to have a deck there that people enjoy.
Awesome, and it has been a blast. I've been tinkering with it as well. Let's talk about the deck itself, some theory behind it. So this is Fatigue Assassin, that implies a pretty control-y fatigue build. What is this deck in particular trying to do?
You are trying to mill your opponents, try and stop their threats from ever happening, try and mitigate your threats by bottoming cards, and just surviving the storm of their relentless attacks. Yeah.
Now, how does this? So there are a few different variations of the Arachnid build out there right now. You can kind of identify them in three tracks. So there's aggressive builds. There's more of a mid-range style that's where I've landed on Arachnid, and then there's the control fatigue style. Tell me what you think about those builds and why you landed on fatigue in particular.
Yeah, I started with the aggro build with could either charge even bigger than that. It was great fun, but as soon as you hit a aggro deck, you really see you're getting outclassed here with damage output, and you cannot keep up. You can do your best at like bottoming cards and getting lucky on banishes, but really those 2 blocks and 0 blocks really just stop you from stopping their their really powerful turns, and you can't get past that. Never tried the mid-range deck, but I would say the fatigue deck is my fatigue deck is now borderline moving towards a bit mid-rangey with some of the input of the 6+ power attacks and pommel.
Yep.
Just through certain matchups, you kind of need to force through damage.
Yep, and Pummel in particular is one of those cards that really stood out to me in the deck. Quickly, before we get into the cards itself, talk a little bit about kind of the relationship of you have a kind of a two-pronged attack, right? You have some top deck manipulation and trying to get banishes to facilitate the fatigue, but you also have a pitch stack manipulation aspect of the deck. Talk a little bit about the relationship of those two parts of your game plan here.
Yeah, so Arachne's ability is one of the strongest parts about the deck, being able to control what they're going to be drawing into the late game, or just cards that you just know they're not going to be in the game anymore. They banished them. Um, Certain decks that want to pitch deck against you, you can really mess up because they're just unknown cards to them. They do not have that information, yet you can have up to 3 pieces of card information. What's left on their top deck, what will then be in their turn, hand in their next turn, and what will be what's being pitched on the previous turn, and what will be bottomed with that card. Can really mess up decks like Oldhim, Bravo, Icelander, Dromai. They're really control heavy decks.
Okay, so what I have in front of me here is, in fact, Oli's build. 79 cards are the exact same. I do have one in the mail. He does run a Heart of Findel in the list. I do not currently have one. One is coming. I did buy one. Merry Christmas, Patrick. And for now, that is a third blue Fleece the Frail on my end. But we would, once that comes, that Fleece comes out and the heart will go in.
I think that's a good replacement for it as well.
Yeah, right. It just seems like it was. There's two of those, and possibly 2 of the other card there. As one or the other can really, I think, fill the slot pretty easily. So we're going to go as it's represented on Fabrary. It is equipment first and alphabetically. So we're gonna start laying things out and talk about them. So we do have Arachne Huntsman, and if you're watching this video, you already know what that does, so we won't get into that. But our base equipment package is Mask of Perdition, Findel Spring Tunic, Iron Rock Gauntlet, Black Tech Whisperers, and double Spider's Bites. I'll just put it like that, makes it look nice. All right, so a lot of these, most of these choices make a lot of sense to everybody. There's been a lot of discussion about the arm piece in particular. You have chosen Iron Rock Gauntlet, and there's one other arm piece we'll get into for Arcane Barrier, but why Iron Rot as opposed to, say, Goliath Gauntlet? I have Goliath Gauntlet in mind, for instance.
Yeah, I think you've got you've only really, with it being equipment having no assassin arm slot, you're kind of restricted to just the common generics.
Yeah.
And you got 4 choices. You got Iron Rot, Iron Hide, Goliath Gauntlet, and Crackerjacks. You got 2 defensive, 2 aggressive. Out of the defensive, Iron Hide, you don't really want to be pitching on your turn. You've got no other ways of making it efficient. You've got no other ways. You haven't got Crowd of Seeds. You're not creating Ash. It's not quite as powerful. So the Iron Rot just feels like a better slot. For the aggressive, I could see the choice between Crackerjacks and Goliath. I would choose Goliath. I think that is probably the better choice. You've got some really powerful 2-cost cards, and Crackerjacks is the same kind of value as Iron Rot, but you have more choice on when you use it on their turn, which I find more impactful because that block can save you damage, way more damage than the one damage that a Crackerjacks gives. Mm-hmm. You're stopping them on their turn, but they might not have the God Hand right there and then if that's forcing them to block. And if they do, they might even eat it and just send more back. Yeah. So, and that Crackerjack, the Iron Rot can stop any on here, which is great. It's great with the other pieces, your head and your feet. You've got a lot of armor. You've got fairly good amount of armor to stop on hits quite regularly, mm-hmm. which is quite nice. And just that extra safety when you don't have the silver or you don't have boots or arm head yet. It just comes in real handy.
Now, there's also been some, there's a lot of experimentation with the offhand piece. Some people are running Ornate Tessin. I'm still kind of on the fence personally with that. And there's some arguments that the silver generation value isn't there, and that you might be better off with something like Crown of Providence or even Snapdragons over Black Tech Whisperers. You've kept the assassin equipment. Have you experimented with those other generic cards in the offhand and the head and legs?
I have played. Well, when Assassin just first came out, I played. Didn't have a mask. Quite hard to find one. So I was playing with Crown of Providence. Felt great, not gonna lie. But in certain matchups where you do generate silver, that's a lot of life you've just lost. And also that extra banish is huge. Like it speeds you up your banishing by a good like if it's an aggro deck, you can banish 2 cards every other turn, which quite consistently, which is nice. That's it could be W threats, it could be you could hit all sorts. It just helps out so much when you need it. The Crown of Providence is really nice against heroes like Bravo or Dromai, I can imagine, or other decks that you're just not getting that silver generation in, because if you aren't, you're not really getting the value out of it. I haven't tried any boots. I think Snapdragons just works fine.
We run 3 other pieces of equipment, and that is the Null Rune package here, Arcane Barrier 3, and you're running lantern, boots, and gloves here. You have a lot of choices. You're taking the Black Tech Whisperers out in particular, and we just talked about the offhand. When are you going full AB3, and why boots and not the robe, for instance?
3 ABs just for wizards, Kano and Icelander. You need to just be like 1 blue needs to be able to pitch efficiently. You could run 4 if you really wanted to really hard lean into fatigue. I think you probably could go if you didn't have Tunic, for example. You probably could just run Robe as well as a sideboard if you didn't have a slot. That might be overkill, but you could really fatigue them, I'm sure. I think the key part is keeping Mask, because Mask is huge, especially against wizards. Taking their combo pieces, taking their OTK pieces, really is just enormous. It makes your matchup so much easier. Losing boots isn't too bad because you're probably only wanting to attack once a turn anyway. When you attack twice or go with the go again and dump your hand, you're just opening yourself up just to be comboed there and then. So it's too much of a liability anyway. But generally against Rune Blades, you're bringing in 2 AB because Rosetta Thorn, real good.
Boots and gloves, or do you bring in lantern and another piece?
So it depends on the hero. It depends if what I know they're gonna do. For example, if they are aggro Briar, you probably bring in arms and Arcane Lantern.
Okay.
Because the boots more block, that's fine. They're better than Iron Rock because you can buy them back, and occasionally you can actually use them. You need the 2 AB because Rosetta Thorn is really good, really powerful late game. Can be if you go to 1, you've lost the game. Not ideal. You don't need to use the Spider's Bites as aggressively in those matchups because they go too fast anyway. You can't keep all that hand to double Spider's Bite. It's 4 resources, quite a lot. So the Arcane Lantern really saves up space there. But if they are playing a more control deck like Viscera with the book, where they are blocking out, you need those double daggers. So I like to keep double daggers just for Viscera anyway, just in case.
Okay.
Because you will lose you will lose that game hands down every time without double dagger, because they block very, very well, and you will just get eaten by rune chance. 52 rune chance in the game. It's real miserable. So you're pretty happy with just losing boots there.
So 44 main cards, main deck, and we'll talk about them as I lay them down here. All right. So Command and Conquer. I think it's a pretty self-explanatory one. Or if I have it right, it's 6 block. It disrupts their arsenal. You need that kind of disruption anyways. It's a pummel target, as we'll see here.
Yeah,
But I
it
think that's
also
pretty good.
synergizes really well with Spider's Bites.
Yes.
Really incredible. If you can get double Spider's Bite and they have to waste armor, or if they've got no armor left, they have to have the non-attack action to actually stop that. Otherwise, they're losing their arsenal. It's really powerful.
And
It
I
also works
found.
with the maths with Tunic as well.
Mhm.
You can go Pitcher Blue, Dagger, Tunic, CNC. Really good. Really easy.
Yep, that's an excellent point. Um, I have found that Command and Conquer is just that much more effective in combination with Leave No Witnesses instead of having, potentially the three and they have Crown of Providence. Now you have six Arsenal disrupting
Mm-hmm.
attacks here, so that Crown of Providence becomes that much less effective because they can only use it once, and you have five more opportunities where you're forcing that interaction. Um, Next up, we have Cut the Chase. We are running 3 reds and 3 yellows. Now, Ollie, the yellow Cut the Chase is one of those cards that everyone seems to agree on the red, but the yellows and the blues are part of that experimentation conversation. You've landed on the yellows here. What makes them the right choice here for you?
I mean, I think the yellows and the blues, the reds are just obviously great. Like, there's just hands down, really, really good card. The yellows and the blues, there's really not much difference between them. Um, I'm on the full fatigue on some decks, so if I really want to push that, I've gone for yellows just to make sure the Eradicate can really be pushed to its highest. If you can pitch deck a Eradicate and if you get a blue stuck in there, it doesn't add much value. Um, the yellow just pushes it a little bit extra. I could see the blues being useful. It's just an extra blue. Um, as a attack reaction, it's pretty much useless because they're over blocking. If they're blocking a 4, they're probably blocking 6, which the yellow is also useless for as much. You kind of need another card with combo with it. But with Eradicate, it just makes it much more value over the long games.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm selling it. I can see it being either. I just like the yellow.
Very good, very good. Next up is our first Assassin Majestic. We have the aforementioned Eradicates.
Really silly card.
It can be super good.
When it goes off, you can really see the value of it. You're not hitting the contract much with much decks, especially with like Prison Gun, for example. Not many people run yellow cards. It's really good against Warriors and Dory in particular.
Yep.
All their M's are yellow, and it's just really powerful when you hit multiple of them. And decks that like lots of rainbow versions of cards. Works quite well against them. Works well against Brute for the contract for the silver. But overall, you're just fatigued. You're just trying to mill as many cards as possible.
Yep.
That's his aim. I used to run a build where it was with Potion of Strength, and you can really get the 3 cards banished. I think my most banished cards in a turn was 21.
Ooh.
With a double Eradicate turn, post of Strength, and Cut to the Chases. It was grim.
That is gross. That sounds great, though. That is very fun sounding. Next up, we have our first blues. We are running 2, and some people are running 3. Fleece the Frails. Yes, tell me about the blues. I think the blues are one of the things that come up a lot here. Where can you find the good blues? What constitutes a good blue, and how you can get the most value, I think, out of those cards.
Yeah, I think I've gone for all the blue assassin cards. I've gone for the 0 costs because they're quite just a 2 for 0 is not bad. The on hit is the most important thing there anyway, so it doesn't matter it being a 2. It still costs them a card from hand or a card from deck. It doesn't matter. Does good job. The the contracts kind of irrelevant. Also, in most of the time, Fleece the Frail is probably the most, not the best a contract to hit because a lot of decks don't actually have that many 2 blocks.
Yep.
And if they do have not any 2 blocks, they're most likely, if they don't have 3 blocks, they're most likely to be 0 blocks anyway. So, which doesn't hit it. So it's not ideal, but it's a 0 for 2. That's basically what it is. I think all the blues are 0 costs, Assassin cards.
Next up, we have so this is a Fleece the Frail, but you are running Heart of Findel in there. Let's talk about how you use Heart here.
It's just a really strong card, especially if you're going for long games. Life gain is really strong when the number 1 priority in some matchups is your life totals. Like, it doesn't matter about their life totals, it's just about your life totals and the size of their deck, because once they are out of deck, it's your game then. As long as you can survive to get that point, you just need, so that Heart of Findel, being able to pitch it, you can get quite a lot of value out of it, especially in certain matchups like Dromai. You get a cheesy endgame where you can only have 4 cards left in your deck and you just cycle pitch Heart of Findel every time and you just gain all your life back. It's really silly.
That sounds great. I hate Dromai as Arachne. I'm working on it. I'm almost there. The Heart will help. Next up, we have Last Ditch Effort. You're running 2 copies of that. We talk about this being a fatigue deck. Last Ditch Effort. Do you find that you are hitting this its ability or activating its ability often?
In the matchups that matter, yes. It's most of the time just a 3-block blue. But in the matchups that it wins through the game, it really matters. So it's against Bravo, Oldhim. I've even played it against Dromai, the Mirror. All these games go to endgame states where you're both running out of cards. You need to have a strong finish to get pushed through their defenses. It's especially against Bravo. This card will win you the game if you can play it win your last 4 cards. If you can get both out in the last 2 cards, says your last 2 attacks in the game, they can't block all of it. It's 16 damage, and if you've got another 4 cost in or 2 cost, 0 cost 2 attack or 4 in Arsenal, you can push the numbers way above they can actually physically block, and you can probably kill them there, which is what you need. Because Bravo is just too efficient at fatiguing you out.
Yeah.
Because their weapon is better than yours.
Yeah, that is the truth. We are playing a playset of Leave No Witnesses, the red Majestic assassin attack. Love it. Got the playmat, obviously. It seems like a no-brainer and a shoe-in for the deck here.
Yeah, really good Majestic. Another CNC can be buffed. Very strong.
Yeah. It feels great when you have a cut to the chase with it.
It's also probably one of the easiest contracts to hit because everyone plays red cards. It's very strong. I guess against Icelander and Wizard, it's a little harder, but everyone still runs reds. They're probably arsenaling their red cards because they're very good in Arsenal. You don't really want to Arsenal blues as much unless you're Icelander, obviously. But it's the easiest silver generation as well. It could be you can do an attack afterwards and banish more, and you're probably getting 3 silver.
Yep.
If you can hit a contract.
Next up, we have some of your rank and file contract attacks. You are running playset of red and blue Plunder the Pores contract. Cares about. So I should say the Leave No Witnesses contract is When you banish opponent's red cards, and it banishes on hit, it banishes the top card of their deck and up to one card in their arsenal. Plunder the Poor contract cares about one cost or less.
It's probably your most consistent contract in the deck against most decks. Obviously, you got a few, even like Bravo and stuff. Probably not hitting it as much, but all of your contracts are irrelevant against Bravo, so it doesn't matter because they are most likely blocking them out. It's your best 0 for 4, 0 for 2. Good.
Next up, we have Sack the Shifty. Again, red and blue playsets. Contract cares about having base go again.
Yeah, I think you don't need to run. This could be a different red. Could be a Slay, could be a Fleece. Depends on what you are thinking you're going to see on the meta. I want to target Fire a bit. Fire has lots of go again, unconditional go agains on cards. So do other heroes. If you're hitting a non-attack, it's probably going to hit.
Yep.
Sack. So that's kind of why I run Sack over Slay, because if it's a non-attack, it's probably got go again anyway. There are obviously a few cards that don't do that, but might as well hit more cards and some of the worst matchups over non-attacks.
Nope, makes sense.
It's a problem.
We then go into alphabetical. Sigil of Solace. You're running 3 red sigils. Now you're not only running sigils, which I've seen some, and I've seen some that go without, but you're running them in the main board as well. They're always in. Tell me about Sigil here.
Life gain is one of your biggest priorities. Staying alive, so you can get to the end game of them having no deck. It's really simple. It's a good card. Obviously, the 0 blocker is an issue sometimes. You can get multiple in hand, and that's not ideal. But 3 life, 3 block is the same thing as sometimes, apart from you can't block on hit sometimes. Pretty rough. It's generally my first go-to Arsenal target. Plays very well out of Arsenal. You can hold it in Arsenal until you've got another card to fill that slot. I would leave that leave the card in Arsenal until I need to play it, which is only when I've got a replacement card for it. It can bait out CNCs, which is real nice. And you can just go, cool, Sigil, block it, 3 of it if you need it, if you can got a send back turn, or you can just full block it anyway and just carry on your turn. It saves your life a lot of the time. The amount of reckless swings I have dodged by having an Arsenal Sigil, huge.
That feels like it that sounds real good. You're selling me real quick on this.
Against ninjas, it can, against what's one ping attacks. It's really efficient and just going cool. I'll block all of it essentially by just gaining 3 life.
Yep. And that's I think I was not on Sigil, and then I had that kind of explained to me a little bit, right? If this was just a red 3 block attack, those go wides, right? Kadachi's Ashwings or whatever, you wouldn't be able to get an efficient block off those, but Sigil kind of covers that part of that. So those crouching tigers these days, things like that, you get more value out of it. We were running a set of blue Slay the Scholars. I get the feeling that this is zero cost is there. Could be, I don't know how. I think that's all the 0 costs there. So I think that makes sense. And then our last Assassin Majestic attack, Surgical Extraction.
Yes, very, very strong card. If you can get copies of them. I'm still missing mine, but very good card.
I was lucky. It's a low key flex, but I only opened 2 cases and I scored the playset. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, I've been borrowing it off the local. Very good card. Taking cards out of hand, incredibly strong, especially when you get to choose which card. It's a must block for any deck. Late game is where it shows its true strength. When they're trying to block efficiently and send something back, or they just need certain cards to keep in the game. So if you are playing against a deck that requires some blues late game, taking those blues late game is massive. Even against in the mirror, making them, you can take their surgical extraction out of hand or their last ditch effort, and it just completely stops their end game. It's also a card that will win you the fight matchup a lot if you can hit it. Take an Art of War or a Sprinting Flames or a Lava Burst. It's really big, really impactful, saves you a lot of damage.
Yeah. No, makes sense.
Contract's okay, but that one hit massive.
Yep, and I was reading them, and then I forgot already. But the slay contract is non-attack actions, cares about that, and the surgical contract is it cares about blue cards, as you mentioned. And then, of course, the on hit is banishing the top card of their deck, and then looking at their hand and banishing a card. Of course, a super powerful effect. You almost don't even care about the blue at that point once you see their hand.
You can make them have unplayable hands as well, which is very strong. If they're blocking 2 cards and you get over the top, you can take, if they got an E-strike and 1 card, just take that out of the card and they just got dead turn. It's incredibly strong.
Yep, that is a great point. And then the last blue is This Round's on Me. Main decking 3, This Round's on Me.
It's a blue block 3.
Yep.
But it wins you the 5 games. It makes their turns much more manageable. Making them you're not leaking as much damage. It stops their Art of War turns being so huge, or their Sprinting Flames. It's run 3. It used to be 2, but you can see them as much as you can. It does a huge amount of value.
Yep. Now, what we're seeing here is 20 blues in the main deck. You never go lower. There's a lot of people that are running. I'm running 18. So you've gone to 20. How did you settle on that number?
I think a good range of blues is about 18 to 23. I know people going way above that and going to 27, and I think that is going full on the fatigue plan, which I think it is the right choice if you want to go on that plan. But if for the matchups you need to go more aggressively and put pressure on them, the blues just aren't it. So I've landed on about 20. I was on 23, but I'm fine with 20. It's quite a good, comfortable number.
All right. Now, we're going to go over the sideboard. February lists 30 cards. We took out the 3 pieces of equipment, so you have a 27 card sideboard after that. And it is spicy. So let's get right to it. You have 3 Annihilate the Armed. Now, I run these main deck. You have them in the sideboard.
I think they actually go in most matchups, if not all matchups. They probably could be inside main board. I think they might be in main board. Might just be a mistake on my part of sideboarding. But very good card. It's your best 1 for 5. It hits most decks. Most decks have attack action cards. Obviously, there's a few outliers with Wizard, but against Wizard, it's a 1 for 5. It leaves them floating, still threatening some damage. And an on hit that's kind of awkward to block. It's not just a 1 D-react away. You can't just fake for seeing it. They have to actually put some effort into blocking it, which feels real good.
Yeah.
I used to be running Nyx as well. Nyx the Nimble, for the same reasons, but you can't have too many 1 for 5s because it makes your 1 card hands not great. You can only have, and it's Annihilate the Armed is great off Tunic. That's the ideal way of playing it, or off a blue where you can dagger into Annihilate. 2-card hand, 1-card hand. That's your ideal play with it. So having too many 1-costs just kind of ruins numbers a bit.
And I think that kind of answers a question I was about to ask, because this is the only assassin attack in the sideboard to this point. So no Rob the Riches, no Nix the Nimbles, and no we talked about how Fleece the Frail isn't necessarily there. Something relevant, and you're only running the blue Slay the Scholar, so you don't see the need to add in any of those to your sideboard. You're content with that main deck configuration, and
Yeah.
probably throwing these in as well.
With the other attacks, you can craft it towards different contracts for different matchups, but realistically, some of the matchups, they're just irrelevant. Like having Rob the Riches in for like Guardians, the Guardians aren't gonna let you hit anyway. That contract's dead. It's just a 0. It's a 1 for 5 at that point. It may hit Reiner and it hit Blevia, but you don't need extra cards to help win those matchups.
Sure.
So trying to save sideboard space, I guess.
Yep. No, it makes sense, right? It may look good on paper, but if you're not actually going to get any value out of it, you might as well put something in there that will. Like a playset of Fate for Scenes, a 0 for 4 defense reaction with Opt 1.
Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's good blocks, 0 for 4, helps you pitch deck, and blocks efficiently. You're trying to block a lot, so.
Yep. Next up, we have Findel's Fighting Spirit Red, 7 attack, 2 block, popular in the Bull-lander version of Icelander these days, and we see it here in Arcane.
Yeah, it's a popper for Dromai. It's life gain against a lot of decks. You can be behind in life, especially if you're fatiguing and not throwing any attacks at them at all. You are just blocking that life gain. You're going to get that life gain every time. I can see it being a yellow, but just for helping pitch it when you have an all red hand or something, pitch it to daggers. But in the matchups where it really matters, that extra 1 point of damage really helps against like Bravo or Alden, where you can just push the numbers a little higher.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a great card to have as if you are using boots. This is the attack I normally save. Well, my 3-cost to 2-cost attacks are the ones I save for my boots. Because then you can go assassin attack into a big attack, which sometimes you lose the value of the extra effect, but you're pushing a lot of damage, which feels great, which is what you need to do sometimes in some matchups. Yeah. And these cards, it's better than a 0 for 4 a lot of the time when you need it to be.
Yep. Absolutely. And they synergize pretty well with the next cards here. You Madman, we have 2 yellow pummels here. So pummel is, right, I first saw this and I was like, no way. But more and more, I'm like, this makes a lot of sense. But tell me why pummel and why yellow pummel in particular.
I was on the same page. I didn't like the idea of pummel at all. And like, you got 2 little targets. Feels a bit Christmas magical wand of actually hitting. But it being, and you don't really, having it red seems way too confident that you're going to hit it when you want to. And having it blue just seems way too not impactful. So if the numbers, like if giving it +2 isn't enough, you need it to hit. So a surgical coming in for 6 is still just a 2-card 3 block. And so blue pommel doesn't actually go over the top. So that's where I landed on the yellow. It's easy to pitch with the dagger. And because you likely are pitch stacking your pommels with your last ditch efforts, your surgicals, your fiendals, or your spoiler wounded balls, or your CNCs, and which with CNC is perfect costs because that is 1 blue and tunic, 2 card, which is great. It's a card that you can get trapped in Arsenal, but you just which is not ideal first cycle. You need to pitch it for the second cycle, unless you're against an aggro deck. So 5, for example, is perfect. You chuck in Arsenal, you find the space to play a wounded ball with a pommel on top. You're just gaining a lot of damage, life gain from that. You can probably gain a life from playing the Fiendos. You can probably, and then you're saving yourself 4 damage probably from the discarded card.
Yeah, excellent.
It helps.
Yeah,
It
it
helps
makes
you
a ton of sense.
game when you can pitch stack it.
Yeah.
But having 3 of them was too many. But 2 feels like a good amount.
Yeah, that's that sweet spot right there. Next up, we have Remembrance, a singleton Remembrance.
Yeah, this is mostly for Jeremiah. You need to recycle your poppers because it's a rough matchup. And being able to keep them coming back really helps the late game as well. Occasionally it helps in the mirror and helps in the Oldham Bravo game as well. So it gets chucked in there. Bring back your threats, bring back your CNC, bring back your Assassin Majestics, your surgical extractions, for late game, really fun.
Nope, makes sense there. Next up, we have another kind of controversial pick to some people. Shreds. Are you running specifically red shreds? You're 2 reds and 2 yellows. Red shred is one of those cards that people kind of, is it worth it to run the reds, the blues? The blues are thought to be really good, but you're not running those. So how did you land on this configuration for the shreds? And where did
so I used to be on 7 shreds. I used to run the 3 blues as well. As 3 blues, 3 blockers. They occasionally have quite an overrate effect, being -2. A lot of the time that -2 wasn't enough. It doesn't stop a 6 block against your 0 for 4, and I felt a lot worse. It was good against tempo cards, really good. But I found out they're just my least played card in the deck. And I just wasn't getting enough value out of them. And if you get an all attack reaction or defense reaction hand, really sucks. You have to just block with them or something. And you can still get that with this, but shreds being in your main sideboard just make the cards that you need, the matchups you need them, only bringing them in for it just really helps. Because it's a really situational card because it relies on your opponent blocking. You has to target a card just blocking. So it can get stuck in Arsenal very easily. And it's a card that just sometimes you just get 0 value because the opponent doesn't want to block. The reds, I've come to 2 of each because 3 of any of them felt like too many. And not having 2 red shreds, you lose the defense reaction heavy games where they are just blocking for 0 for 4s or staunches as well on top of blocking with a 0 for 4. You can just add them, they pile up. Quite easy to pitch stack with your main contract cards that you want to see them with. So you kind of want to see them with your Leave-Nos, Witnesses, your surgical extractions, and your Eradicates. And occasionally they can sneak you a win by on the dagger. That was where I found the blue shreds actually the most impactful, is sneaking a win with a blue shred on it. However, at that point, if they block with a 3, it's also just dead card with found a lot of time. So I just ended up cutting them all together.
Yeah. Next up, we have Sink Belows. Pretty self-explanatory with the Fate for Scenes.
Good hand. 0 for 4.
And then we have That All You Got. I think another pretty self-explanatory one comes in. Magic comes in against Rune Blades, Katsu,
I think it comes in most of the time now, because you can just arsenal it and it's just more block value. It's basically, you could run a yellow sink in its place, for example, but its extra draw value is really big in the games that matter most, like Fi.
Yeah.
So yeah, really good card.
Yeah. Blue unmovables. So now you have the ability to side in 3 more blues, and you have chosen the blue unmovables and not running the red unmovables over any other selection here. Tell me about the playset of blue unmovables.
It's a really good blue, but it helps with your Guardian matchup a huge amount. Um, 3 for 6 from Arsenal is huge, and it gain around dominate just can completely stop a crippling crush with a card from hand. It's also just quite a good card in general, against most decks. I take it out against like aggro decks that don't produce enough value for like a big attack for 6 very often. But again, even against Brute, chucking it in Arsenal is quite nice. In red, I would, if you found yourself in a Guardian heavy meta, red unmovable is definitely advisable. It will do a lot. I just not as hard tactic for Guardian because it's not really big around here.
Sure. If you were in a Guardian heavy meta and you wanted those reds in there, what would you take? What would you take out?
Ooh, that is a tricky question.
On the spot.
You'd probably have to take out your wounded balls.
That's probably where I would lie there as well. Let's speaking of which, you are running two wounded bulls out of here, similar to the Findel's Fighting Spirit, popular in Icelander, seeing some play here in Arachne, 7 attack, popper value, etc., etc. Yeah. Right.
It's a really good value card. 3 for 8 when it hits, really good. It's another good card to have as your second attack on your boots. And great pommel target. It doesn't come in all the time. Most of the time it's out of the deck. But when you need to produce damage and threaten cards from hand, it does the job really well.
Absolutely.
For example, you really need to force cards out of their hand, otherwise you're getting pistoled to death.
Yes. So that is the sideboard. I just have a couple quick card decision questions, and then we'll get into some of the matchups here. So, Red Razor Reflex has been pretty popular. You've taken it out completely. Tell me why no Red Razor Reflex?
It's good for its buff, but the on hit, you don't get use out of enough. If you're just trying to buff and go for more damage, then it's okay. You've got better options as it costs 1 and still blocks for 2. If I wanted to buff something, I'd probably use Come to Fight. It's still 1 cost, but it blocks for 3 still. Because the go against kind of irrelevant a lot of the time. I'm not trying to do 2 attacks. I'm trying to block out efficiently, send 1 attack with an attack reaction or dagger attack. So the go against a lot of time wasted. So I'd rather, and the 2 block really hurts some decks. It's the same issue with Pommel sometimes. Pommel can be a bit bad in hand when you got lost to 2 blocks, but you don't have them in for those matchups necessarily because 2 blocks is really rough.
And I guess the other one is I've seen. I love Come to Fight. Come to Fight brings me one of those. I get lost. I go down the rabbit hole of like, what is better value, right? A Tunic, a Come to Fight into a 0 cost, or like a Findel's Fighting Spirit. Like I start weighing those kind of things. Like, is it 2 cards spent or is it a card and a pitch? What's worth more. But Enlightened Strike is one of those that are also that, right? It's a good value card. I've seen it in a lot. I am currently running it in mine. It's a 3 block red Majestic, but it doesn't see play here. Have you looked at E-Strike?
I just took it out just for Pommel, and won this rounds on me.
Okay.
E-Strike, really good card. Really flexible, which is ideal. You kind of the 5 draw card is huge. Letting you set up an arsenal because most of your cards are okay in arsenal, are good in arsenal. If you get a blue 0 for 2, that is fine. You can full block hand and still send an attack with a on hit. You can get a defense reaction in there, or you can get an attack reaction in there. These are all good cards like to have in your arsenal, so that is quite nice. It still blocks a 3, and a 2 card for 7, still good. It never used to go again much, except against Dromai, just to kill a dragon and do more dragons. Really good there. I needed to make space for Pommel in this round's on me, and they improve what I would say is a worse matchup for Arcane. So it needs to be there for 5. And E-Strike doesn't do anything there really.
Yeah. Let's talk matchup. So before we get into that, you have done the work on Fabrary, so the matchups are there. So if people are curious about 100% card for card, then I implore you to go check out the list and look at the matchups there. But let's talk. Arachne seems to be at a point where right. I think this all lays out. I'm gonna keep the sideboard here because we have the main board that makes sense, right? We're gonna be talking specifically matchup wise, and this is where these cards would come in here. It seems like you're trying to inch right every piece of value you can, right, on each like turn cycle in this effort to fatigue. It feels very similar to Icelander in that individual turn cycle value sense, and they're doing one thing, you're doing a slightly different thing. It's a little more challenging for Arachne to do their thing here. But do you have, let's talk, I guess, general packages here. Do you have kind of a like a go-to standard configuration here that you would rely on most of the time?
So all the defense reactions all come in most of the time. Unmovables come out occasionally for Fi and maybe Katsu as well, because they're just not they can't efficiently block very well there. But most of the defense reactions all come in most of the time. They come out for wizards only, and even then, value stays in because it's a yellow pitch. And you need more pitch value to stay alive. Those are always come in. They're just a really, really good set of cards. And then same with Fiendo's Fighting Spirit. Most of the time comes in. I think they're my go-to cards. And Annihilate the Armed is also the other card that generally comes in most of the time. So they're the sideboard cards that always, they're the first ones I go to. The Wounded Balls and Pommel and Remembrance and Shred, those are all quite unique cards that do certain things for certain matchups. And for the Pommel and Wounded Ball, they always come in together. Don't take them out individually. Because if you are going to bring in your Pommels, you need every 3 cost in your deck to make them worth playing.
Yep.
And those matchups are where you need to kind of high roll into them, where you need to be able to pummel them. You need to stop their turns consistently. You need to see the disruption as much as possible. So they come in for when you need every card in your deck as well, because they're going for the long game. They still do exactly what you need them to do. They're 7s, 8s, and the pummels gets over blocking. The remembrance is for anyone that's going. Well, it's just for the 3 main long games: Dromai, Guardian, and Arcane. And the shreds, they come in whenever you're expecting a lot of defense reactions.
Okay.
I will bring in maybe 1 or 2. I'll probably bring the red shreds in against heroes like Levia as well, just to get value out of Husk. Blocking, taking.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Really
getting that
blocking out of the way.
Husk block.
Or anyone that's got tempo equipment that is required to do their plan. Combo Bolton, they need Courage Blade Hold. If they basically, the inclusion of Shred in your deck means they can never block with Courage. So you've saved yourself 2 damage. And if they do block with it and you have a Shred, you can punish them so much. You've saved us a lot of damage. And then even against Mech, Dash, you can destroy the Mech. It's needed. It's probably there because they're blocking out most of the time anyway, and it's a 3 block. It's good against Guardians as well if they're running Stalagmite or Crater Fist. It's just taking extra card block out of equipment block out of their use. It's really powerful. But yeah, most of the time, they only come in for certain things.
Excellent. Now let's talk bad matchups. Is there any particular what would you consider the let's go the worst matchups here in probably I guess what takes Arachne out of kind of contention, I think here.
Bravo, I would say, is the number 1 worst matchup. They are very efficient at blocking you out and dealing damage. Their Anathos is just one of the most efficient weapons in the game. And our daggers and cards from hand do not compete. So you need to. They will fatigue you way quicker than you will fatigue them. So you need to change your game plan, and it requires a different game plan, gameplay patterns and stuff like that, because you can't fatigue them. So you need to go on your last ditch efforts. You need to go over the top with pommel. You need to present good trades where you can 2-card block and then send a Wounded Bull for 8 or a Fiendo's Fighting Spirit for 7 and gain a life. Same with the E-Strike, that did the same thing. It was very good against Guardians because you can just 2-card 7. It's good value because they're just doing 2-card 6s, but you are losing more cards than they are. So you need to be able to push the damage. You need to get through the defenses. Then after Bravo, I would probably say it's Fi. Fi is one of those decks that is almost unfatigable. If they know what they're doing, they will do it. And so you kind of need to get lucky in your banishes. You need to get lucky in your disruption, when you see it, how you see it. And so you're trying to go as hard in disruptions where the pummels are helping a lot. More cards out of hand. CNCs, Leave No Witnesses, Eradicates, all really good cards. Surgicals, just to get the combo pieces, the cards they need to see out of their deck, out of hand, is vital. As long as you can power their turns down, you can survive it.
Yes, and I've run into plenty of Fis where they've eaten everything down to 1 and kept the 5-card hand, and all of a sudden That's the game, so
Mm.
to speak here. All right.
And then, yeah, rough.
Um, so is there anything you want to touch on that we haven't yet with any of the cards? And anything you want to add here?
Um, well, we can talk about the dreaded Dromai matchup too.
Oh yeah, let's do let's do Dromai. I will say from my end, I feel like I'm almost there, but it has to be uh like remembrance is super important because even you're running Wounded Bull, Fighting Spirit, and Command and Conquer for 8 poppers, and it's like almost enough, but
Mm,
but 11 is probably better, and you will almost need every single one of them
oh
in
yeah,
order to continue on here. But
it's
let tell me about your experiences with the Dromai matchup.
it's probably the hardest matchup to learn.
Hmm.
I don't after you've worked out and played it, it's no longer the hardest matchup for Arachne. But is it something to do? It's a horrible matchup to learn. It's horribly grindy, and if you make one mistake, you've probably lost the game.
Hmm.
Um, but you've just killed dragons basically. You never attack face,
Yep.
and you have to mess up with that pet stack. And uh, basically, you want to sink every defense reaction possible that they have in deck
Hmm.
because they're dead cards. They can't play them. They can't uh, use them for anything. They can generate ash and that's it.
Hmm.
Late
Yeah.
game,
Hmm.
that they do nothing. They can win you games because once their late game's pitch deck is they want 4 dragons in one turn or something.
Yeah.
And it's impossible to deal with because we can deal with 3 to 4 dragons a turn maximum,
Yep. Yes.
and
Yep. And that's
even that's rough.
yes, that is very it's very fortunate if you can get that high.
Mm-hmm.
I have felt that it is one of the only matchups where I think dual spider bites is required because you have to be able to take out those ash wings because the right you had mentioned you're not trying to kill them, right? There's no way in hell that you're gonna deal any damage to them enough uh, to kill them. So life totals almost are completely irrelevant. You're almost entirely worried about clearing their board state and getting the cards out of their deck.
Mm-hmm. Once they've run out of dragons, they've got no weapon. They can't kill you.
Yeah.
So that is the way you win the game. So you need to survive. You need to keep your life high. You need to keep your deck size enough to survive the dragon onslaught. And
Mm-hmm.
you also need to make sure that they are running out of dragons.
Yeah.
So their life is irrelevant in that game. So your turn basically is pitch a blue or 2 blues, dragon, spider's bite, an aether wing, ash wing, sorry, or a chromite and another dagger into a chromite,
Mm-hmm.
or and then a 0 for 4 into another dragon. And that is generally your play every turn. So that's
Yeah.
2 cards or 3 cards max. Or tunic. Tunic is huge in this game
Mm-hmm.
because it turns your blue into 2 daggers,
Yeah.
and that is massive in this matchup. So you run 2 AB into them as well, just to
Mm-hmm.
survive the arcane barrier.
Yeah, that's one of the
It's
things
like
I've had to learn
phenomenal.
myself is the arcane barrier into Dromai. It matters. It matters so much.
And if they tumble tie one of them, well, if you're only running one not ring and they tumble tie it, they can pitch stack really well against. They can try and pitch stack with Burn Walls and Asvalize, and you can just slowly lose life, and you're just not gonna get to the point where you can actually kill them or survive the turns.
Yep. Yep.
Um, it's a rough one.
Awesome. Well, we're we crossed the hour mark here, so I don't want to keep you any longer. And that's why I do say, right, the February list has all the matchups there. The card selection choices are there. So if you're trying this list out, he's done the legwork, and we all appreciate that. Real quick, the last question here is Arachne in the future. What do you think it needs, kind of conceptually here? Coming, we have Outsiders coming up. What would you like to see out of it to really feel like it'll kick it up a tier or two here?
Um, really tricky question because uh, we've been spoiled the one stealth card.
Yeah, right. Yeah, stealth is a thing.
I see what that could be doing.
Razor's, was it Razor's Revenge? I believe something along those. Razor's Edge.
And that for me, it intrigues me. That could be a new mechanic that really pushes Arachne. It might combine with Contract, it might not. It might be a whole different thing. I'd love to see some actual usable assassin arms. That'd be ideal.
Yeah, that would be really nice.
Some way to. Most of the time, we need to push our damage through. So more options to push damage through to their defenses, or make it more difficult for people to defend against us. That's what I would like to see. So hopefully the stealth mechanic helps with that. But otherwise, I'm really happy with the deck pool currently because it's pretty consistent. Everything does the exact same thing. All the same on hits, and they're all on rate. There's not a huge amount I would actually want to change at the moment.
Excellent. That's good though. Would you bring it to ProQuest? You bring it to a ProQuest?
I will be bringing it to a ProQuest. Yes.
All right. All right. That's all the validation the deck needs.
I think it's.
Go ahead.
I think it's meta dependent, and if you're not seeing certain heroes, if Bravo's not a huge thing in your meta, I think you can do okay with it. I think it's definitely a viable deck to top 8 a ProQuest. And I think you're going to need a lot of piloting skills to win it. It's a deck that really rewards knowing your matchups, knowing what the opponent wants to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that feels in that way. It feels kind of very. We've had Josh Lau, Warrior Extraordinaire, on the channel, and that's his big thing with Warrior as well. It's pilot dependent, and you need to know the matchups because that's how you get through, is understanding what your opponent needs to do and disrupting, right? What that plan is.
Arachne is the hero that requires the most knowledge about every other hero in the game because you need to know what each card does, how much value it provides their turns, and what their overall game plan is to manipulate their deck, and what they banish, what to not banish, what to sink, what not to sink. And I think it all comes down to experience. If you play it more, you'll learn it.
Awesome. Ollie, I'd love to thank you for coming on to the program here. If you have anything that you would like to plug, now is your time. Where can we find you on social media? If you have any projects, links, whatever, now's the time.
You can find me on Facebook as Arcane Altars. I actually paint altars and sell them into commissions.
All right.
I'm currently painting my Heart of Fiendel for the ProQuests.
You're painting the heart. Oh, a brave soul. Excellent. That's wonderful. What's your rate for your commissions?
All the prices are on there.
Fair enough.
It depends on the card. And complexity, I guess.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on. Of course, everybody, you can find us, The Combat Chain, on YouTube. If you search The Combat Chain, we come up there. You can find us on our podcast, wherever you stream your audio podcasts. We're on everything. if you'd like to support us, you can find us on Patreon as well. We recently went through kind of a revamp on the Patreon, so by the time this video comes out, I believe it'll be up and running with the new tiers. So check that out, and if you want to support us and keep the lights and mics up and running, go on there. And yeah, I think that's gonna do it for us. Oli, thanks again for coming on. And there's one last piece of little business we like to do with our guests when we come on. I like to say until next week, and we like our guests to join in and saying, "We're closing the combat chain." Is that something I can get you to include on? Excellent. All right, guys, thanks very much for tuning in. This has been a great deck tech with Oli Archon Alders. It's really informative. Love the deck, love the hero, and I think this is the optimal build. So by all means, check it out. We'll have the list below. And that's gonna do it for us here. So until next week, we're closing the combat chain. Perfect. That's just how we like it around here. All right, man. Hey, that's a wrap.
Yeah, thanks for having me.